Hey, welcome back. This is Joe from HomeStudioCorner.com. I'm going to pick up our discussion from last week. Last week we were talking about compression on specifically a drum bus, but just compression in general, and how attack is kind of the secret ingredient to using a compressor. But now, this week I want to talk about the release knob and how it's kind of like the tone knob of a compressor. Now, you may have never heard it described that way, and I actually have never described it that way myself until recently, but it came about when I was doing a video for mixing drums, the one I talked about last week that's in my VIP members area. And I talked about, we were just adjusting the release of the kick drum. And I noticed something, and I'd never come to me this way before, but the release knob really is like a tone control. Now, the release of a compressor is how long it takes to stop compressing after the signal goes below the threshold. So the kick drum hits, it compresses. How fast it compresses is determined by the attack, and then how long it holds that compression before it lets go, or how slowly it lets go of that compression is determined by the release setting. So let's take a listen to this kick drum. Take note here, I've got the release set to really long, 175 milliseconds. Let's go to a fast release like we did last week with a fast attack. And let's just listen to what this kick drum sounds like. Okay, so the front end has a nice little snap to it. We set the attack to a pretty good level, so it punches pretty nicely, but doesn't lose all its what's the word I'm trying to, all its punch and all its dynamic. But there's a good bit of a sustain on the kick drum itself. I'm going to play it again. Listen to the woo, that sound that follows the initial hit of the kick drum. Sort of that woolly sound. You don't want to, I tried EQing it out and it just ended up taking all the body out of the kick drum. We didn't want to lose that nice low end that it has, but that woo, woo, woo sort of sound that comes after the kick drum, that was the problem. So the solution is to adjust your release knob. That means we're going to have the compressor, after it turns things down and compresses it, we're going to have it take its time releasing that. So that woo woo that follows the initial hit of the kick drum is going to be turned down, and we're not going to hear it in the mix as much. So listen as I turn up the release setting. Listen to how that the last half of each kick drum starts to kind of tame itself down, and it doesn't resonate as much. Let's take a listen. Can you hear that? I'm going to do it one more time. We'll start at the really fast release and then go up to a slower one, and listen to how the resonance of the kick drum changes. And all we did is essentially we just turned down that woof woof sound. It's not gone entirely, it's still there, and that's a part of the kick drum sound, and it's great. But in the mix, I was hearing it was just too much of that sound, and it was causing some muddy sort of sound in the mix. So by making this release a good bit longer, we're able to tame that down and turn it down just enough to balance out the mix. And so that's why sometimes I call that release knob the tone knob of the compressor, because it allowed us to dial back some of that tone of that resonance of the kick drum to where in the mix it now sounds nice and punchy without being over the top. It hits, boom, and then it goes away. It doesn't hang around for too long and muddy things up. So I hope that helped. Next time you're compressing anything, take some time to adjust the attack and release knobs and see what different tones you can get. You can make one compressor sound wildly different just by adjusting the attack and release in different ways. So check it out, try it out, see what you like, and come back here and let us know what you think. Again, I'm Joe from HomeStudioCorner.com. Thanks for watching. See you next week.